Hey, welcome back to another week of Niche Pursuits News. My name is Jared Bauman. Boy, do we have a week in front of us. It feels like every week just ramps up in intensity. Today, Spencer's out, and so we have a good old standby. Josh has got to be number 3 or 4 for you. Josh Blackburn joining us.
Hey, Jared, thanks. I think it's got to be at least 4 now.
Yeah.
Kind of the designated hitter, but happy to step in and chat about the wild week.
I think the last time you were in, I was on summer break or something, and I think I listened to the episode while I was driving my trailer around town, around the country or something like that. I remember hearing about it. So, anyways, welcome back. Always good to have you. Today we're talking, for those of you who are familiar, we spend most of the podcast on the news, talking through the various things that are happening in the search engine land, in website creation land, and there's never a shortage of news. This week's a doozy. We'll spend the first half or more on that, and then we do move into a couple other segments. We talk about shiny objects, shiny object shenanigans. Josh, I'm particularly excited to hear what you've been working on because, again, last time I listened, you were doing some cool things. And then we'll close out with one weird niche, although I have to say you're bringing 2 niches to the table.
Yeah.
You're kind of just making us all look bad here.
No, it's a double whammy. It's super interesting, and I mean we'll dive into it. But I think it could be replicated. I think it'll be fun.
Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
Do you remember this campaign? It was all over the news. It is the most intelligent royal campaign. With over 100 links generated in the world's biggest online publications, this is one of the most viral PR campaigns of 2021. This is how we've done it. The methodology was pretty simple. We looked at the QS World University rankings for the institutions attended by key members of the royal family to discover which royal is the brightest of all. Meghan Markle came out on top, followed by Kate Middleton and Prince William. We put these findings in a press release and sent it to mainstream media and journalists who write about royals. From Russia to the UK, the US, Vietnam and Japan, this story got massive coverage, landing over 100 links and created a massive buzz on social media. Simple research, but a great story that journalists love to write about. I hope this will put you on fire and will give you inspiration.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now.
Let's set the stage. So last week, Spencer and I spent like 50 minutes or longer talking about what was a landscape-changing helpful content update, right? And as if we are going to spend some time on the helpful content update, by the way, but Google didn't even really give us a break here. They basically just said, hey, while you're still licking your wounds from the helpful content update, we've got a couple more updates to launch. So if you have not been paying attention, since last week, we have had not 1, but 2 additional updates launch. I've got the screen right now. We've got the October 2023 core update. Before I move on to the second update, let's see, Josh, we had August 2023 core update. Then we had September HCU update. And then now we have a core update. What are your thoughts? I mean, this is hours old, so obviously we have no idea what's actually happening in the SERPs yet. But what are your thoughts on a core update happening again so fast?
Well, I think it's interesting. And I mean, also, too, just looking at the past years, right, we probably can assume that in October or December, we're in October, in December, there's probably going to be another core update looking at the last few years, right? So, and,
always.
Is it going to be every few months that they're going to release one now? And I know, like, as we get into the helpful content update, a lot of people, hey, is this going to be reversed? The results are not good. And there were sayings like, hey, it will not be reversed. But now you have 2 updates following that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if these updates fix what we're seeing now in the search results.
No secret, the SERPs are not necessarily awesome right now. Even when you take out your own opinions of, kind of what it's doing to the niche site community, even with that being said, like, man, there's some really funky results, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Yeah, you kind of hit one thing that I wanted to bring up, which a lot of people are wondering, hey, is this core update like, is this Google's PR way of being like, well, we want to do a reversal, but we don't want to do a reversal, right? Air quotes. We don't want to say we're reversing things. I don't think they've ever really publicly reversed a update, to be clear. Like, it's not really as much a reversal as it's a tweak or a change or a modification. But is this sort of like going to be a reversal or a partial pullback or something like that? Like, and there's two updates to look at there, because I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. We actually started seeing user-generated content prioritized and showing up in the August core update, and then it just almost doubled down on it with the HCU. So is this going to pull back on some of the user-generated content that's surfacing and sitting at the top of Google right now?
Honestly, I don't know, right? And I read something that the HCU helpful content update is machine learning, right? So, and is the core updates, I'm not really sure, like, are they machine learning as well? And we keep seeing more. I feel like we see more and more updates, and we see more and more volatility from each update than we saw like 3 or 4 years ago, you know? And is it just a matter of training the machines? Is that, hey, we're going to let the machine switch this variable, and we're going to get all this data, and then we're going to put it in, and then just retrain the machine, and eventually, like, is it going to be an ongoing process? I'm not sure. I don't know enough about machine learning, but I mean, I guess that's kind of my theory, is that they're just essentially trying to train all their machines on all of this data and see how users interact with it.
It is interesting because we know that even when there's not a core update or a quote-unquote announced update happening, like, you can still see a lot of changes in the SERPs. They're still always tweaking things here and there. Supposedly, core updates are supposed to affect every search. You know, like, it's an update to the core, the entire algorithm. So, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and then the double whammy is that yesterday or Wednesday, depending on when you're listening to this, Google announced the October 2023 spam update. And the spam update improves Google's cover. I've got it on the screen here. I'm just going to read this part out. The spam update improves Google's coverage in many languages and spam types. They said it aims to clean up several types of spam that our community members reported in Turkish, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Hindi, Chinese, and other languages. It should reduce the visible spam in search results, particularly when it comes to cloaking, hacked, auto-generated, or scraped spam. It will take a few weeks to roll out. So, again, many people are talking about how, because there's I would say there was limited blowback on AI content as a whole in some of the recent updates. Is this the one that does target AI? It literally says they're auto-generated. You know, I don't know. It's going to be very tough for SEOs to analyze when you have two algorithm updates happening simultaneously on the back of two algorithm updates in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's wild. There's an Anon Twitter account. I tried to find it before we got on here. I don't know if it's Traffic X or something. I don't know. And he had been showing screenshots of foreign language sites that are hacked and cloaked that have like 0 DR, like, or DR 0.6, 0.9, hundreds of thousands of traffic in the last month or so from Ahrefs. So it's interesting. I've been seeing those tweets from him, and then now you see this spam update rolling out. I don't know. I think it's super interesting, you know, and then of course, like you say, the core update on top of it, right? Like, it's going to be a wild couple of weeks.
I did see that Glenn Gabe, I think he said basically, hey, this isn't just targeting foreign sites. It was kind of highlighted in Google's announcement, but it's also English SERPs. I don't have that tweet in front of me, though. I can't really read it or confirm it. But it's interesting. You know, I know the spam updates in the past have, again, broadly speaking, felt a little light. Like, you know, I think a lot of people that maybe would be listening to this podcast, doing their own content site, most people probably didn't see any effects from the spam update. With that being said, I think a lot of people saw effects from the core update, and I think the majority of people listening felt effects from the HCU update. So, not to read into that, but I think we might have, maybe for the listeners, a lot of them might see, I'm just speculating to be clear, might see effects on maybe mass-produced AI content from the spam update, might see effects, generally speaking, from this core update. Maybe people affected by the HCU could be seeing some sort of rollback. We don't know if it's rollback. We don't know if it's a part. Like, man, we're just basically guessing here.
Yeah, but I would say, like, one thing that I think we would both agree on, that if you were hit with the helpful content update, don't make any changes yet. just hang tight and let the spam and the core update roll out and kind of see where the dust falls, and then try to gather your assessment and go, and fix what you need to fix.
It's a perfect transition or a perfect segue. There's a lot of feedback starting to emerge and come out from the helpful content update, the results that people are starting to gather. There's a lot going on in this update. I'm going to try to find the screen here. Everybody knows I struggle with this if you've been listening to the podcast for very long. Here we go. Here's an article. And again, this is where you and I get to kind of knuckle down and chat about the HCU. I want to hear your thoughts on it. But here's an article by Casey Markey in Search Engine Land. Casey's a friend of the podcast. I was going back and forth with him actually yesterday. I think it was about a year ago that he joined the podcast. Great interview if you have a food website and want to learn more about that interview. But Casey basically put together an article that he published that's on how to survive and thrive in a Google helpful content world. I'll just kind of summarize some of the things he said, and then Josh, like I said, I just want to let's chat about it for a little while.
Yep.
He said ad companies are often prioritize ad income over user experience, and so you have to be very careful with playing things like auto-playing video ads, full screen ads. High-density ads can negatively impact UX, and the helpful content update seems to have targeted that. He recommends optimizing for usability. He has some stuff on interstitials and pop-ups. And he actually goes through exactly what Google's guidelines are when it comes to interstitials. Helpful content doesn't mean more content, so word count is not a ranking factor. Supporting health claims, that's specific to health websites. Avoid writing solely for rankings. So original, unique, genuinely helpful. That's a very esoteric topic, but something that is clearly emerging. And then multi-niche sites were notably affected by the update negatively. So focus on your topic and try to find ways to diversify the content types, both internally and externally. There's a lot there. I definitely recommend reading the article. And Casey's, got a pretty good handle on what's going on. So let's talk about the helpful content update. What did you see? How did it affect your sites? What do you think about some of these thoughts that Casey shared as it relates to what you're seeing?
I think a lot of what he says, is true, right? I think a lot of it, I would like to assume that we all know kind of common sense that we should do these things, but I think that a lot of people, and myself included, don't do all these things, right? It's, I think it's tough, I think you kind of got to take a look in the mirror and say, hey, are you truly running a site that you're trying to make it the best possible experience for the user, but also where it captures search? And are you running it like a business, right? Or is it like, hey, this is just a side hustle, a side hobby, like I'm just trying to rank, make some cash, flip this site. I wish that he would have had the sites he looked at, what their authority was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like the core, so we could see like, hey, the sites that did get hit, were they lower authority versus the sites that won were higher authority? Like I shared some examples with you. Like if you look at I Googled best recliners. Like here, so I Googled best recliners. This was, I think, number 3 for me. This is the New York Post. Before I could ever see the content, that's the ad that popped up.
So that hit you as soon as you got there, basically.
As soon as I got to the content, I opened the site, I opened the first 5 results. I went to 1, I went to 2, and then I went to 3. And the time I opened my browser for the site, this is what I saw, right?
It doesn't even have a call to action.
It's
it's just
a straight.
You're listening, it's just a pop-up basically for a brand advertisement.
Yep.
So kind of flying in the face of a lot of the experience stuff we're being told is important.
Exactly. That's my point, right? Is like they say don't do this, but here you have a DR 90-something New York Post that's ranking for number 3 for best recliner. Which how much expertise does the New York Post have on recliners? I don't know, right? But they do have a lot of links, and then looking at Forbes, right? It's, there's a lot of talk about no video ads. You get on Forbes, above the title is an ad with a video. The ad follows you down the page. It jumps from the right sidebar to the left sidebar, auto-playing ad, which goes against everything that the experts are telling us to do. But the one thing that these sites have that most everybody in the niche site community doesn't have is a DR80, DR90 domain, right? So it's like, like the Google Docs and everything Google is telling everybody to do is fine, right? Like, hey, it's good. A lot of it is common sense, and it should be done. But at the same time, it's like you kind of got to take it for face value when you look at the search results. When you see Quora and Reddit skyrocketing, you see LinkedIn traffic skyrocketing with Parasite SEO, and then you see sites like Forbes and New York Post that cover every topic under the sun, every affiliate product, and they rank very well for it, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, I think it really comes down to links. But I think it's diversifying, and then also getting away from affiliate and ad products, right? If it's something you care about, or even if you don't care about it, but if you can create a digital product, a physical product, build an email list. I know you did a podcast with the guy that had a pet site, and he started selling his own dog brushes and stuff. Like, that's a great example, right? Like you have if you have an affiliate website, the Amazon site, you have the data, what people are buying. Just make a better version of it.
There's a lot of conversation about businesses winning, specifically like e-com stores winning, and by winning, like, hey, I used to rank for something like I don't know, what is an iPhone, and now my niche site no longer ranks for what is an iPhone, but some store that sells iPhones is now ranking for some article they wrote that's 200 words, no images, no bullet points, a wall of text. But they're ranking because they have authority, perceivably because Google thinks that the business has more authority now than my website,
Exactly. And I don't, a few years ago, maybe it's more years, maybe it's 3+ years ago, but I felt like every time we got around to like the holiday season, Black Friday, Christmas holidays, you would see the e-com sites get a boost in rankings around the holidays, right? And now we're seeing it sooner now. And maybe it's, hey, if you do have an affiliate site, hey, can you bolt on a drop shipping site? That drop ships those products, or it's a lower barrier to entry, but now it could appear as a real business, or and it'd be a lot cheaper than getting your own products made. I think it'll be interesting to see, how it all kind of plays out.
All the chatter, all the talk is around this helpful content updates. That the stuff they did is fairly permanent. They seem to publicly have doubled down on it. The results have certainly spoken for themselves. It seems like it sure feels like it's targeting kind of what a niche site emblematically represents or stands for. And when we look at what a niche site really is, it's just a website that focuses around a singular topic, right? Over the years, the term niche site has kind of evolved tremendously. I remember when I first started listening to this podcast, like Spencer was making like single page websites about like, ant farms and stuff, and ranking. So obviously the term niche site stands for more than what a definition of niche site is. But it's interesting to think that maybe Google doesn't see a content site as a business. And if they don't see it as a business and they're ranking business content, it's just interesting to think about your website and how you can think about it like a business and look at the signals that Google looks for in businesses and then try to see about emulating some of those things on your website.
I think so, right? It's like treat it like a business. Instead of trying to have 5 or 10 websites, have one good website. And your podcast with Sammy I thought was great too, right? He's in a super competitive niche, but he's diversifying, right? He's got a podcast, a YouTube, like short form. He's got all these things, and he's competing with these bigger sites, and he's got a lot less authority. So,
and he went up something like 50% or more in the helpful content update.
Oh wow, interesting. Yeah. So it's like, that's more time. But like, I guess for me personally, right, like my way of going about it would have been quantity of content, more opportunity to rank, more long tails, more page views, ads, affiliate, whatever, right? And going like his route, it's like, hey, less content, but it's really good content. But then we're also putting that effort towards video, to audio, to all these other forms, social, etc.
Well, and I just want to encourage everyone as we move on. We'll be talking about helpful content update, I think, for a while each week. But I shared on Twitter today, so Thursday, just an example. I thought it represented a lot of what I'm feeling about the helpful content update, and I just deep dove a certain query. It's a best query, best X query, and I think that what I found is that it was a DR39 website. It was ranking number 1 for this query before the helpful content update. It's still ranking number 1, so it didn't move up or down. It stayed there. And I kind of dove into all the things, and a lot of the things they were doing in this article were exactly what Casey was talking about. I think there were 22 unique photos of the products they were reviewing.
Wow.
You could tell like before and afters, and you could just see it. It had the affiliate links were not prominent. The content was very clearly expert written. It was a persona that clearly was the person doing like a lot of the things that people like Casey and other people we featured say the helpful content update rewarded. At the same time, the ads were intrusive. There were video ads, and there were too many ads everywhere. There was a lot of other technical issues with the website. So I think that we need to collectively look at maybe the 15 or the 20 things that moved or that impacted this update, but know that you don't have to get all 15 or 20 right. But if you don't check enough of the boxes, those are probably the sites that saw loss. But there's plenty of examples of sites that stayed or rose that didn't check every box, but they maybe checked the majority of them, right?
Yeah. And also there's a saying too, right? Maybe it's not the best saying, but it's like nobody thinks their kid is not a good-looking kid, right? So it's like it's the same thing like with your website. Like you might think like, hey, this is my baby, right? Like I'm doing everything right. Like there's nothing wrong with it, but you kind of got to step back and say, okay, like, hey, could it be better, right? Could I do 2 or 3 of these 15 things that could help, make it appear more like a business and put it in a better light?
I'll close the helpful content section by saying, I love this quote. You have a good quote, but Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
For many, this feels like getting punched in the face, and the plan got thrown out the window, and you kind of got to go back and reevaluate what the plan is, and maybe your site isn't quite as good looking as you thought, and even if the results ahead of you aren't fair or aren't better, it still doesn't mean that you can't do some of the things, Josh, you talked about and evaluate what you have, make it better. So, well, from one slippery slope to the next, folks, Spencer and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and that was that Google was going before the DOJ, the Department of Justice in the United States, to talk about antitrust. There's a lot of data, or well, I guess not data, but reports coming out about what's going on in the antitrust case here. I don't know where we're getting this information. Can we go watch this, or are we just relying on people to talk about it? How do we get this information? Do you know?
Yeah, it says it's like a closed court, but somehow like this guy writing this article said he was in there, and he's like something popped up on the what is it, machine they used to use in school. You put it on like, I guess, like a projector or something, right? He said it kind of popped up on the projector. Yeah. He was able to take some notes, and then they kind of took it down. So like it seems like it's very, very, very closed, right? But there's people somehow that are getting in there and leaking this information out.
Well, I'm glad they are, because I'm certainly fascinated by it.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard, one of the big stories to come out of it, and we've got a couple to actually go through. Josh, you brought a couple things to the table here, but let me try to read off maybe a summary of what you're seeing. It's speaking of a big wall of text, by the way, what you're looking at, but that's a different story altogether.
Exactly. That was my first thought. Yeah.
Jeez, I can't read this, man. I don't have enough time in the day to read all that. Good thing I have summaries, and I can get some summaries here. But I did get a summary. But basically, the big story of the week is that there's a lot of evidence suggesting that Google might be altering search queries to generate better ad results or commercial results. An internal Google slide, probably the one you're referencing, revealed a semantic matching overhaul to its search engine results page algorithm. The overhaul alters user queries to produce more commercial outcomes. So the example was children's clothing being covertly changed to Nikolai brand kidswear, which is a query that would generate more revenue for Google. And obviously, since Google has so much market share and the fact that they are doing this without our ability to know about it or opt in for that, I would say not good. I'll just leave it at that. Google's let's see, where is this one other thing I wanted to say? So Google first alters a user's query and then presents results as if they were the best available, i.e. people believe that what they're reading is basically the best available, right? And then here's something that you brought to the table that I want to share as well, which has to do with the emails that were leaked. And maybe you could talk about these emails that were leaked.
Yeah, so there was somebody posted the actual email on Twitter that was from this court case, and it was the Google PPC team emailing the Google search team saying that, hey, we're behind on our quota, meeting our KPIs. We got a team here. We're trying to do our best to hit the revenue targets for shareholders for the PPC side. Pretty much like, hey, we want to get our bonuses this year. I don't want to ruin the morale of the team. Could you alter the search results to help us get more ads, to get more clicks, to get more revenue, so we can hit our KPIs? And I seen that there was another Google, I guess, came out and put out a statement, I believe, about this.
Yeah, they did.
So whether
didn't read well,
which makes me think, I'm assuming that this was a true email and not doctored, but like giving these two things that we just went over, the email and then Google changing your queries of what you're searching, goes back to like these updates and what Google says you should be doing. Is like you can't really take it at face value, because at the end of the day, they're a large corporation that is really just trying to make money off of ads. That's how they make their money, and they don't care about anyone or anybody's site or anybody's business. They have shareholders they have to answer to. I think it's super interesting. I think it's great that this stuff is coming out, and I hope that there's some kind of legal action, that something happens to them,
like a day at Google this month versus a day at Google even just a year ago and years, like there is so much going on there. They have antitrust and clear evidence that stuff's happening. I mean, we're not lawyers. We don't know what the heck's going to go on. I don't know how legal any of this stuff is. But clearly there's evidence that's surfacing that stuff happens that doesn't seem above board, kind of like what you said. And then you got SGE, so they're under pressure with AI, and they have to figure out how to incorporate AI to some degree into what's happening. Then they've got absolute truckloads of content being published right now over the last year or so since AI became something available to content producers. And they've got to deal with that in their SERPs. They've got to crawl it. They've got to figure out how to rank stuff when they're dealing with a scale of content like never before. And then they're rolling out update after update after update that does seem to be following a central vision they're sharing, but it's riddled with, challenges, problems, issues with not being as dead on as they would like it to be. So, I'm trying to be very PC here. Off camera with a beer in my hand, I might say something a little bit different. But the reality is they have a lot going on, and just the big landscape of search is changing. Like it's changing from like 4 different angles right now, and it's very hard as an individual to wrap my head around where search is going, how AI plays into it. Google's antitrust situation with other companies like an Amazon now potentially having the same issue. And then we've got all these updates that are targeting things that are very out of, some are out of our control, some are in our control. So there's my 2-minute monologue. A lot going on right now.
Absolutely. It's just going to be wild to see how it rolls out, and I guess how the year ends, right? And to see how their quarter ends as well. I think reading their earnings as well and seeing, hey, are they up? Are they down, right? And how is that going to affect
that's a good point.
Year,
Man. And, you brought it up, like we are trained to know that there's an update coming sometime around before or after Black Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're going to have an August, an October, and then like a December.
Yeah, and I think last year they started doing them like this a way more frequent too, right? It just appears that it's getting.
We had March to August, right? I think we had a 5 or 6 month gap there between updates.
Yeah.
Well,
there was the March core, the August core, and was there something in July though? Was that the first one? Or was there a helpful content in July last year? I don't remember.
No, helpful content first hit in September of last year. That was the first one. But we have had, this is the third one, so we have had a second one in there somewhere. I don't remember when that one was.
Yeah. See, it's just, it just seems to be more and more and more.
Maybe we had a product review update this summer.
That's what it was. Yeah, maybe that was in July.
And remember, it changed. It's not the product review update. It's just the review update now.
Review update. Yeah.
There it is.
It's
Fun to do this live on air. You just figure stuff out live.
You're right. But it's just, it's more and more updates, right? It's more and more different names, supposed to be targeting different things. It's Google says to do this, right? And you see the people on Twitter like, hey, I'm running cloak sites. Hey, parasites are still working really well for me. I think at the end of the day, people just gotta choose what side of the fence they want to be on and figure out how to diversify. And I think at the end of the day, I think building an email list is going to be your best bet.
Buckle up, Buttercup. What a year, 2023. We're going to, I'm probably going to tell my kids about this year, looking back on it.
Right.
Well, your father's hair is gray because of 2023.
Yeah, right.
And Google. I think we have time for one more really interesting news article here. This again was something that came up a couple of weeks ago, and we have more data coming out on it. Here's an article in Search Engine Land that said 26% of the top 100 websites are now blocking GPT bot. If I remember correctly, when Spencer and I talked about it before, it was approaching 20%, and that was just a couple weeks ago. But now it looks like 26% or 26 of the top 100 are now blocking GPT bot. That's, it depends on where you get the data. That's a 250% increase since last month when 69 of the top 100 websites had blocked GPT bot. So whatever data set you're looking at, this is increasing quite a bit. Publishers are blocking the ChatGPT bot and basically saying, we're opting out. Let's see, is it here? Yeah, so New York Times has blocked, Reuters has blocked, BBC and The Times, wherever that is, BBC and The Times still allow access. And then here's one more screen I want to share. And then, Josh, you weren't here when we first talked about this, so I want to get your thoughts on this. This is another screen that is more for the news industry specifically. And this is talking about how basically there's a gathering of news sites that are openly advocating to block ChatGPT. And this is as ChatGPT will now start to use news in its in what it's surfacing. So the article says, until now, OpenAI's ChatGPT was only able to use information up to September 2021, the cutoff date for its training database. But paying ChatGPT Plus and enterprise users can now get current and authoritative information, quotes, in answers from the chatbot, and this will be expanded to all users soon. OpenAI promised to provide direct links to sources. So we've got ChatGPT getting blocked by the big 100 sites, and then we've got a more curated focus for news websites to block ChatGPT because of an update coming through OpenAI. Whew, that's a lot.
I don't think you could blame them, right? It's
that was going to be my question. Why would you not block it? I'm just trying to think of like use case.
Like a news publisher, right? How does a news publisher make its revenue? Ads, right?
Yeah, traffic. Ads for
exactly
traffic.
Right. It's getting the traffic in the ads, and you're already dealing with it with Google. Like you so many sites you probably could look at. It's like, hey, impressions are going up, position hasn't changed, but clicks are stagnant, or they could be decreasing, right, because of search features, right? More ads, top stories, or whatever it might be. So as a publisher dealing with Google, and then now you have these other AI platforms you have to deal with as well. It's getting to be a tough time to be a publisher.
I mean, it's just interesting because I had a graph up a couple weeks ago about Google Trends and just the spike in ChatGPT that happened when it was released in November, and that carried through and continued to build momentum in the general public eye until I think it was about March. But it's been on a steady decline since March, and as more and more websites literally block the crawler. I think we all know AI is the future in so many ways, but how it's the future is going to be very dynamic. If large websites that control a lot of information are blocking, and ChatGPT bot actually, kind of obeys that block. It's going to be interesting to see where they're going to get the data from, and how this modeling plays out. They might have to actually strike some partnerships up or something.
It wasn't there talk of one of them doing a partnership with
Yes.
with AP News or something like that, right? So I mean, they see it, right, and trying to get ahead of it. Yeah, and as like GPT is using current news, right? Like, is that going to be the Google competitor, right? It's instead of going to Google searching for this topic or current, are you going to go to ChatGPT and get the information you need? It's going to be very interesting.
Well, we're going to have to kind of wrap up our news segment. So many things we weren't able to get to. We had we also had a story you brought about news site traffic from Facebook and X decreasing year over year. Amazon is looking to incorporate generative AI. So much that is going on right now in the world that we just had to leave out. So, man, you picked a good week to come, Josh. I don't know if you need to go take it. Yeah, take a deep breath, get a glass of water or something. We still got more to do here. So we're going to move on to our side hustle shenanigans.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Just wanted to take a short break and remind you that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. I've got a short clip from Ferry at Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
What a crazy campaign. How to sleep on your back. This campaign got us links in Huffington Post, Glamour magazine, Mirror, and lots of other great news publications. Let me show you how we've done it. It was so simple. Our sleep client provided us with expert commentary about how to train yourself to fall asleep on your back. They also gave advice on why it's best to sleep on your back. Once we've had this information, we went to Muckrack and searched for journalists that consistently write about sleep and well-being. We've sent these journalists the advice provided by the client, and within one day the links started flowing in. Glamour magazine, a DR81 website, picked it up. Huffington Post, DR88, Mirror UK, DR90. A massive avalanche of links blasted to our client's website with this simple yet effective campaign about how to sleep on your back. I hope this inspires, and I hope you'll use this technique to land massive links to your or your client's website.
Are you looking for similar link building PR campaigns for your website? If so, just go to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them today.
So basically, I have been kind of committing to talking about the Amazon Influencer Program as my side hustle of choice, probably through Q4. And as you know, Q4 is when so much business flocks to Amazon, so much e-commerce business flocks to Amazon. And, September is now done and in the books. And, Spencer and I have been kind of teasing at it, but I released on my YouTube account a full recap of September, and I'm calling it the Tale of Two Halves. So basically, in a nutshell, earnings were excellent. I would say probably higher than what I would expect. I'm only 4 months in, so what do I know about expecting anything? But they seemed higher than I was expecting for the first 2 weeks or so of September. I was on pace to be earning well over $3,000 in the month of September. Nice. And then clicks dropped off a cliff sometime around mid-September. I went from averaging over 600 clicks a day to my videos to, I think, just over 250 or something. And so as a result, the earnings dropped quite a bit. So September finished off at just over $2,200 in earnings. And really though, it's a tale of two halves, because the second half of September was far below averaging $2,200 a month. The first half of September was far above averaging. And so I'm just so curious to see what's going to happen going forward in the month of October, November, and December. And I will just say, this is a total experiment. And the first couple months, both Spencer and I have been really quick to point out how amazing of an opportunity it is and how well it was doing off the ground. And at the same time, some poor results in the second half of August, some poor results in the second half of September, definitely kind of bringing me back down to earth here on how well this side hustle is doing. And just to close, still at the same time, 4 months in on a side hustle and earning over $2,000 a month with a lot of opportunity for upside in the future. Still probably not a bad thing, but definitely not the total home run that it was looking like the first couple months.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, right? I mean, where else are you going to earn $2,000 in a month and 4 months in? I guess my question is, like, for you, do you know why the clicks dropped? Was it more videos, more competition, or was it something that Amazon did with your placements?
It would seem like they removed the entire video carousel that sits at the bottom of the Amazon product listings. I didn't deep dive it. Like, I don't have time. Yeah. And even if I do, I'm like, am I cookied? Am I logged in? Am I, and so there's people smarter than me that test all this stuff. But word on the street from talking to a few other people who kind of did look into it, and I certainly noticed it while I was going around Amazon. I pay attention to these influencer videos now that I do them. It's amazing how, when you're doing something, you start to notice it a lot more. And yeah, second half of September, I certainly saw far less of them, and it definitely seemed to be limited query-based or product-based, but they definitely yanked a bunch of them out. And it wasn't like they yanked my video out. It was like, oh, I used to have a video that was number one here, and that was where I made money, and I'm not making money on it, so I went and go look at the video, and yeah, it's just not. There's no videos there. It's not that my video disappeared and someone came in and took my place. It's that there's no videos. It's almost like you rank number one, number two, number three for a query in Google, but now anytime anybody does that query in Google, it just says, sorry, no results found. It's kind of like that.
And I mean, I guess not to be devil's advocate, but it's kind of as we've been talking about this whole episode, it's almost like it's an algorithm, right? It's Amazon sandbox like Google, and I have to wonder, is it a test? Okay, hey, they gathered all this data from these months with these videos, this was their conversions. Now let's remove them for X amount of time. Let's see what happens. And I wonder if, hey, they're trying to decide, like, what are we going to do for Black Friday? What are we going to do for Cyber Monday, for the holiday season? Do we make more money with these videos there or without them,
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm seeing so many indications that they're actually investing in this program, from different bonuses and different opportunities they're presenting. And so, I mean, I feel like there could be a better way to test, but it feels like testing, right? It feels like it's almost like, let's prominently display them in the first half of September. Let's not display them in the second half of September. Let's compare earnings. Amazon earnings, right? Like profit for the company. And then you're right, like doing this testing in September leading up to what we know starting end of October, early November, when people really start buying from Amazon, having data sets in front of them. You might be thinking at home like, oh, dude, Amazon's got it all figured. Like, they don't need to go to those kind of lengths to test stuff. Well, for anyone who's uploaded a video to the Amazon influencer backend, trust me, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have a lot of data, because it's quite the thrown together user experience when it comes to kind of submitting your video, and the analytics are rudimentary at best. So I don't know. I hope so. It's probably like the the positive attitude in me that's saying like, yeah, they're just testing, So, but I mean, look, we'll see. Like, this is kind of one of those things where I'm in it, so let's ride it out. But you kind of get to just watch and learn as I go through the roller coaster of whatever's coming. Who knows?
Yeah, and you have so many videos now too, right? I think that if you probably say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to take the rest of the year off, that you'll still probably have a very good Q4, right? But two more things. One, I just seen recently that like TikTok has the TikTok shop. Like they're putting like shoppable videos out there. I don't know exactly how it works, but I seen somebody that is using it, and they said it's incredible right now because TikTok is covering 40% what appears to be like the purchase price. So if your item's $100, the user pays 60, TikTok is paying 40, and the seller is getting the $100. That's like how heavily invested they are into getting these shoppable videos. And just as Amazon, right, they've got to be aware of this as well, right? And like you said, they're investing into the program. You got to think it's going to be the future, and they're going to figure out a way to make it work. The second question for you, Jared.
I was going to say, I agree with you, man. Okay. I got to look at TikTok.
Yeah, right? I don't know. Could you do affiliate links, or that would be interesting.
I haven't looked.
So if somebody is not in the influencer program and they're saying, hey, they're listening right now, and they're like, okay, we're in Q4. What is your thoughts? Does it make sense right now if you're at zero to start getting them out there, or do you like, maybe focus on building your site or fixing your site from the updates?
Well, here's the thing, and I've always said this about the influencer program. Like, it's forcing me to do things that I should be doing for my site anyways. All the content you create from a video standpoint with a little bit of extra work is allowed to be put on YouTube. And so what would I say to someone? I would say, hey, in general, you should be, if you care about, going back to what you said earlier, like if you want to make a go at one of your websites, like you should be producing video content. That's elevating to the next level. You should be publishing on YouTube, getting that wonderful signal that you have other sources of traffic and interest, validating your expertise. And Amazon Influencer plays into that. Yeah, like not everything I'm making a video about would qualify for my niche site, but a lot of it would. And I can parlay a lot of my efforts in creating content for YouTube by also putting it on the Amazon Influencer program. So to me, it's almost like getting paid, getting rewarded by Amazon to do something I should be doing anyways to substantiate and support my website.
So it's almost like a triple, right? You can get Amazon dollars, you can get the YouTube audience dollars, and then you can put it on your website to try to satisfy the search engines and help your users as well. So yeah, it seems like a no-brainer, you know?
Yeah, and so like, I don't want to get into like a whole strategy there, but like if you go through your 200 articles on your website, and it's like, hey, how do I refill a ballpoint pen? Like you could make a video about that, put it on your YouTube channel, and then make sure you just tag in the Amazon Influencer program this ballpoint pen. That video now can be shown as a shoppable video for the pen. It can be helpful on YouTube, and it can also be supporting your efforts on your niche website. So,
yeah, awesome.
But you got to qualify and get in, which
Yep, that's the other half of it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I'm rambling. What's going on in your world? Last I heard from you, I think it was August, and you were deep into AI publishing.
Yeah. So I had a site. It's a few years old. Like it's like a DR32 now. Like I had built links a year or so ago, like with Fairy, Haro, other stuff, right? So I had kind of done a lot of the things, but also I know I cut a lot of corners. I was just outsourcing, right? I was head down at my last job, right? So I didn't treat it like a business. It got hit last year in the late summer, early fall, one of those updates. The tail end of one of the updates, it went from around 800, 900 clicks to around 300 or so clicks.
Okay, so 60% haircut.
Yeah, and then it just sat, right? I let it sit, didn't worry about it, just didn't want nothing to do with it. And then as the rise of AI, and I'm like, okay, hey, this could be interesting. It's got some links, it's got some age. Okay, let's kind of dabble with some AI content, and
let's do this.
Started playing with it, and I put up a few hundred articles, kind of refined my process. And so since July to like September, I put up almost 4,000 articles.
Woo.
Yeah, so
okay,
and so these were unedited. I was essentially like go to Ahrefs, type in a keyword, grab every question, cluster them, try to remove duplicates, load it into the AI tool, put it on my site, just let it run. I was publishing over 100 articles a day.
Yeah.
And it was, I didn't drip feed, just mass publish. Clicks did kind of start to, impressions went up, clicks started to go up. It wasn't like massive. It got to like 300 or so clicks a day. It wasn't really exciting, so I'm like, okay, like it's not really working. Well, then the helpful content update, and now it just got crushed. It's doing about 20 to 40 clicks a day now. And you look at GSC, it was just kind of like this, and then it's just a straight drop, right? It just went off a cliff. At the end of the day, like it doesn't the site was kind of already dead to me. Like I'm just not interested in the niche. So it was just kind of just see what would happen, an experiment. And this is the way it turned out. But now I do think it's interesting that we have the spam update, the core update. And when I look at GSC before this call, I guess the data would have been from 2 days prior. You could kind of see, I mean, not much, right? But the clicks kind of turned up a little, which is just interesting. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen over the next few weeks or months. I have no intention to publish more content. I did send a few PBN links to some money pages. I don't think it really affected my rankings. So I'm just going to kind of let it and sit and see what happens. And, as far as the next side hustle or shiny object shenanigan, I might go fire up the Amazon influencer tonight,
This shiny object might have lost a bit of its luster, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, it was already getting there, right? It just wasn't not a lot of effort on my part, right? I mean, it's 20, 30 minutes maybe, if that a day. But even now, like, it's just clearly not worth the effort. I'll just let it sit and kind of see what happens and see how these updates, if they do affect it, really can't affect it any more negatively. So it'll just be interesting to see, though, like, hey, does it kind of bounce back or not,
It's interesting you mentioned earlier, focusing on maybe 1 or 2 websites instead of maybe 5 or 10. Mm-hmm. Notoriously, a lot of people in this space have maybe built up a bigger single site and then, kind of branch out, and whether it's just to have fun or to test something or to seed a future project, we'll start other sites. And, certainly seeing that might have more limited returns by following that approach. And so if you're someone who's thinking about going from like, oh, I got 3 sites and one took a hit and I got, another one that did all right, so I'm going to just leave that site alone. Like, it's a good ROI decision to think about.
Yeah.
But what do you do with it? You just let it sit there. And in your case, you let it sit there for a year and you're like, well, heck, let's try something with it,
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, right? You've already invested this time and money, and essentially it's gone, right? But I guess it depends too at where it was at, right? Like if this was your paying your bills,
that was your main
it's a whole
site.
different. It's a whole different thing than it's like, hey, you need to get it fixed, and you got to pay your bills, or you got to go get a job or whatever, right? But if it's a side hustle, it's a shiny object, like, yeah, I lost, right? But I know why I lost. I know the mistakes I made. I know I was lazy, and I got to deal with it, right? I gotta lay in the bed that I made. And another thing from your interview with Sammy that I really thought was awesome is he said he was looking at his site on a 10-year timeline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That to me, that boggled my mind. Like, 10 years, that's a decade. A lot of things are going to happen in 10 years, but that's the approach this guy's taking. So I started thinking, like, I already know this site is not a 10-year site for me, right? So I'm like, what is the site that would be 10 years, or what's the niche, right?
What's the project?
I think or even a 5-year timeline is massive. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, like, going forward is like, hey, what could that be? And I think would be good advice for anybody,
Well, if you have shameless plug, I always say shameless. It's not shameless. It's
not at all
entirely fitting. Just plug. If you didn't see Sammy's interview on our podcast, probably 2 months ago, maybe, I'm guessing a couple months ago, not that long ago. It's a great
maybe
listen.
last month. Yeah.
I mean, as fortuitous as it gets for the helpful content update, I feel like if we now Sammy can forever say I told you so in so many ways. Not that he would, but
right. Yeah, it's a great interview.
Had a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. So I'll see if we can figure out how to link to that. I'll have my people talk to Spencer's people about that. Hey, let's move into a fun segment. Lot of stuff. Very heavy episode here with news and
it's a lot.
Just all the updates. But we do have some weird niches to talk about. Always good to get someone like you coming on. We'll see where you go. I guess I'll just go first since I'm top of the list here.
Okay.
And I got to share my screen. Oh, boy. I hope people who watch appreciate this because it really, I was telling Josh before we started recording, Spencer's so good at it, and I always complain about it. Tough for me. Multitasking. Yeah. And the website is, the weird niche is, Cuddlebuddy.com. No, sorry, cuddlecomfort.com. But it's all about having a cuddle buddy. So this is not a weird like niche in that way, if that's where your mind's going. It's just odd. So we'll use the word odd. This is a legit site, though. Okay, this site has been around since 2011, and its tagline is "Get a cuddle buddy today." We'll find you a cuddle buddy so you can start a friendship based on cuddling without any expectations of something more. Call to action: start cuddling. It has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Fox, Yahoo Finance, and I find this site to be fascinating. It's just such a weird concept to me. For starters, obviously but they've got like quotes here, what they're saying. I've had a couple of success stories from this site. Both my snuggle buddies were awesome. I mean, it's just half of me feels like they've got to just be making this up, right? Like this has to just be a big elaborate joke. But I mean, they've done everything by the book, and it's legit. I think if you go to About, it says more than 400,000 people from the United States around the world use Cuddle Comfort. We created a platform so you can get a cuddle whenever you want one at no cost. They got a big getting started here. They got a big Trustpilot button here. 4.2 out of 5. Only 66 reviews. Would like to see a little bit higher for 400,000 people. That feels a little inflated. Let's put it that way. SEO-wise, they're a DR32. Now, they only rank for 2,000 keywords, but they rank for some really, really nice ones, probably because of some of those backlinks they've gotten. Josh, first take on cuddlecomfort.com.
I don't even know what to say. Unreal, right? I guess my first thought is, interesting, right? Super interesting to find the site to go through the process. And then my second thought is, how do they make money? Somebody's got to be paying. I'm guessing maybe the user who wants the cuddle buddy is maybe paying, or
it says free. You have to sign up. I'm wondering if maybe they use that data to then sell you stuff later, or share that data with other people or other businesses.
Yeah,
I agree with you. It says free, but I didn't log in. I didn't create an account. I thought that, I'm married here. So
yeah.
Don't want to explain that one to the, hey, that was for the podcast, I promise, so I didn't sign up.
Yeah, not going to end well. Or
only
maybe
so far I wanted to go down
offer.
and test this for the podcast, but anyways, I don't know how they make money.
I wonder if maybe dating offers or something like that, maybe a companion, or I don't know. Super, super interesting. How much traffic are they getting?
Yes, our platform is completely free with no barriers or paywalls. Our mission is for people like you to get a cuddle whenever you want one at no cost. We also have members that prefer the convenience of paying for one. It's how we fund our platform, but it's entirely optional. Well, I guess maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, and according to SimilarWeb, it says they're getting almost 1 million visits a month.
Oh, wow. No kidding. So maybe a DR32, but clearly they're getting traffic. With only 2,000 keywords, you're not getting 1 million page views a month, but that's some serious traffic.
Yeah. So a lot of people looking for cuddling.
Well, it looks like they're based out of London. It is an American website in that it's a .com. It's not a .co.uk. They have a not a lot down here in terms of what you can learn about the brand or if it's owned by a larger business. A lot of times, Spencer and I will kind of see here on the podcast, like these sites tend to be owned by conglomerates or things like that. So, but if you're looking for the world of weird, I felt like that qualified. Josh, you are up. Let's see. You want me to go? You got 2 here today, which technically is not one weird niche, but I'll let it go because I think, like you said at the outset, these kind of tie together nicely here.
Yeah, I think it's so I seen this shared somewhere, Facebook group or Twitter or somewhere. So the first one we'll look at is sunglassesid.com. What it is, it's just a site that, like, every pair of glasses that an actor has worn in a movie is listed here. So you could search like Maverick, right? The latest Top Gun movie. You could search Maverick, and it would tell you the glasses that they wore in the movie. And when they tell you that, it's a link to go buy those glasses. So this one is a DR31, and it's 14 years and 260 days old. Remember the days, because it's going to be interesting when we get to the second one.
I saw that in the notes, and I was like, Josh, what are we getting in a days for? Why does it matter?
Yeah, right. So it's 14 years and 260 days old. It has just over 1,000 pages. It ranks for 9,000 keywords, 1,000 keywords in the top 3, and according to SimilarWeb, it's getting 70,000 visits a month.
Okay, that's nothing to sneeze at.
And for 14 years, like, just seems like a great little site, that's just been making however much money. But the one question I have for this, and then the second one is, how are they finding this? How are you finding all this stuff from the movies?
I gotta imagine that it's like an expert. I mean, maybe they publish this stuff. I'm not much into celebrity stuff, but maybe they publish some of this stuff. I don't know.
Maybe the costumes or something, like finding the data for the costumes for the movie. I would think that somehow, some way, this is automated.
It sure feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Here you go. I'm just poking around, Josh, but I got up on camera and Anne Hathaway, The Hustle, and it says these sunglasses are not yet identified. If you know the brand and model of these glasses, please contact sunglassid.com.
Interesting.
The closest we can find are these super basic Wayfarers find on eBay.
Yeah.
Affiliate link, of course.
But it's like, how are you finding Anne Hathaway with the glasses and The Hustle? To do that for every movie out there for the last 14 years is it's pretty cool.
So what's this second site you've got now?
So the second site is watch-id.com. So it's the exact same concept, right? It's clearly the same guy or girl when you look at it, but it's watches. It's got the same design, the same everything. It's about movies. It's what the watches they wear in movies. It's a DR30, and it's 14 years and 243 days old. So this site
17 days later?
Yeah, it's 17 years after the first site was built, this site was built. So, I didn't go deeper to see if he has shoes or pants or jackets or whatever.
I was going to say, that was my first question. Did he do it 17 days later? Did he do it for, whatever? Yeah, shoes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But so this site, again, 1,000 pages. But it's got 17,000 keywords ranking, but only 648 in the top 3. And SimilarWeb says traffic is 117,000 a month, but I think the watch site looks like it according to Ahrefs is taking a little bit of hit. I think the sunglasses site was pretty stable in Ahrefs. But to me, it was just super fascinating that they have all of this information.
They certainly could make improvements to these sites. Like the pages are pretty thin. They're kind of, I would say that they have a nice internal linking, potentially structure there. I'm looking at Watch ID, and the top menu bar is celebrating a 10-year anniversary, 2009 to 2019. So
yeah,
they did update their footer. Their footer is updated for 2023, but they have not updated their header banner. So certainly they could make a lot of improvements here.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like it feels like they are kind of built and like kind of set and forget in a way, right? Like it's like you say, right? Like it's 10 years there, which is 4 years old, I don't know, super interesting,
I'm on their about page. There's, nothing about. So it said, to answer your question, this information is gathered from research by the author, official press releases from watch brands, forums, weblogs, and tips from readers. And then a special thanks to a few people for the excellent programming of the website, and then another person for his passionate help in providing some of the screenshots. So, Yeah, I guess it's compiled by Remmert van Braam. So it sounds kind of, German or something like that in nature. So maybe Dutch.
Yeah, it looks like so their website. Okay, so according to their LLC, RimArt, they're in North Carolina and there's one employee. Um, and
Well,
it's like it
there you
looks like
go.
they're like a
Okay.
website, yeah,
Oh,
design
yeah,
and
yeah. And
marketing.
Remart LLC at the bottom. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
the website by Remart LLC down there at the bottom. Okay, yeah. Well, this looks like a site that doesn't have more than one person working on it.
So interesting. They also have Bond Lifestyle and trackablemouse.org. It's rim-art.nl.
See, you're starting to find all this stuff now.
You know, I looked at his LinkedIn and I didn't even see that they had the URL to their site on LinkedIn. Um, yeah, this trackable mouse looks cool. It's a GR19.
We see so many weeks. We see so many weeks where you kind of see a website that has this sort of programmatic nature to it, and then you find out that the person who started it started 3, 4, 5 in similar niches or shoulder niches or related niches, right? Mm-hmm. And here's another example where they got the website concept down, and then they just went sunglasses and watches and a little off the beaten path mouses, but hey, while you're at it, why not?
Yeah. So I mean,
well, I think we're gonna have to wrap up here. I'm just looking at the time. We were a little verbose today. We went over the hour mark, but hey, you know what? There was a lot of news to cover.
Yeah, a lot to talk about today, and great call, and thanks for having me, Jared.
Josh, remind everyone again where they can find you. You're with Link Whisper, but where can people catch up with what you're doing?
Yeah, on Twitter, it's Josh Blackburn01. I'm not too active there, but if you find me, if you got any questions, you can. I think DMs are open. Happy to chat or help in any way.
Busy working on Link Whisper, I suppose. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by. You obviously have your finger on the pulse with what's going on, so it's great to hear your perspectives. Certainly with just update after update after update. Just a reminder, everyone, Niche Pursuit sends out several emails a week with lots of really helpful stuff, including this, but we do weekly interviews, and Spencer has the big challenges going on right now that are really interesting. I saw a really cool interview with an AI specialist being released this week for one of the challenges and stuff. So you can get signed up for that at nichepursuits.com/newsletter. And without further ado, we'll kick the weekend off. Everybody have a good weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
We got 20 links and placements on massive websites such as The Express, Mirror, Daily Record, and many more with a campaign about the pros and cons of popular diets. Not bad. This is exactly how we've done it. Our client is a very popular fitness client. We have asked them to provide thorough expert commentary about the pros and cons of the most popular diets. Once we have this information, we put this in a nice email and send it out to 15,000, yes, 15,000 journalists from around the world that write about fitness. So good. And unhealthy. Big publications picked up our story from the email, giving our client massive, juicy, saucy, healthy links that are 100% relevant to their website and that will keep the rankings of the website in a great shape. You see what I've done there? I hope this case study inspires and that you will start leveraging expert commentary type campaigns to land links to your or your client's website, just like we've done it with this campaign.
Thanks for joining us today on the podcast. Just a final reminder that it was brought to you by Search Intelligence. And if you're looking for link building PR campaigns for your website, just head over to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them today. Cheers.